All righty, everyone. We are going to start class. All righty. Islam, everyone. They must have known I was going to need to sit down today. Oh, I've been doing so much. Got one? Yes, I do. All right. All right. Islam, everyone. All right. What we do before we start every class is we read chapter 25, the Holy Covenant of the Asiatic Nation, from the Holy Quran, divinely prepared by Prophet Noble Jew Ali. I'm going to read it. If you are in agreement with it, affirm after I finish reading by saying Islam. Ye are the children of one father, provided for by his care, and the breast of one mother had given you son. At the bonds of affection, therefore, unite thee with thy brothers and sisters, that peace and happiness may dwell in thy father's house. And when you separate in the world, remember the relation that bindeth you to love and unity, and prefer not a stranger before thy own blood. If thy brother is in adversity, assist him out. If thy sister is in trouble, forsake her not. So shall the fortunes of thy father contribute to the support of his whole nation, and his care be continued to you all in your love to each other. Islam, Islam. I'm hoping, trusting that I'm going to get a text from someone any minute to let me know that I'm going over the air all right. How many people listened to the broadcast last night? I say it every week. Last night's broadcast was very interesting. And I want to kind of, do like a lateral move today. We always talk about health and, we talk about law. We talk about law, we talk about history, and, I've been like, doing a lot of research, once again, on health. Now, some of you may not know this, but when I first started, when Roz tricked me into coming up in front of everyone and talking, my subject matter was health. I never wanted to get up here and talk. I was content to sit in one of those seats, listen, take notes, and record, and leave all the research and talking to someone else. But I guess the universe had other plans for me. Seems I have a knack for research and relating what I find to other people in a way that everybody can comprehend. And I seem to enjoy it. I do enjoy it. But I'll tell you, when I started studying health, diet, because my subject matter was health, diet, and immortality, because I discovered that the body is designed to go on forever. And if we go back and look in our history, there are people who we as a people used to live thousands of years. We can barely make 50 nowadays. Used to be that we had a bunch of our family members that would hit 100 and well over 100. And now we can hardly make 50, right? And I've always been into health because in my family, as it may be in some of yours, in my family, everything is resolved with herbs. We never went to the doctor. We never went to the doctor unless somebody needed stitches. And if my grandmother had been living with us, she might have been doing the stitching, which I'm glad she didn't live with us. and we went to the hospital. We are a family of herbologists, and that's how we took care of everything. I remember when I was a little girl, I got out of the car, and my sister, gleeful as she was, got out of the car, slammed the car door, and my hand was wrapped around that centerpiece, and it slammed the door on my finger. And it only caught my thumb. It was the back door, because I was holding it like this. So it was the back door, and she slammed, and it slammed on my thumb. And I didn't say, I was too afraid to tell my dad. Because I thought he was going to get mad because we were playing around. So I waited until we got home, and I told my mom, and she hit the roof. Should I tell your father? He should have taken care of this right then and there. But anyway, she called my aunt, and my aunt came over with these bags of stuff, and they put it on the fire, and it smelled so wonderful. But the fact that it was on the fire and looked extremely hot, I was sort of cautious as to what they were going to do with it. So I don't even know how I got through that. I think I must have blacked out because I don't remember how they got that hot stuff on my thumb. But they did, and this is the thumb that got smashed in the car door. You would have never known that it was disseminated in the car door. But we did that from herbs. So my grandmother, when my grandmother was alive, she talked to us about herbs. She told us about the various different herbs that they used to use to resolve various different medical ailments. And so that got, I think me and my sister are the only ones that kind of latched onto that information, and I seem to have just taken off with it. So I got to this point where I was thinking, I don't want to be controlled. I don't want to be controlled through food. So it started with me weaning myself off of beef, which I didn't really care for. Never ate pork. Once I became older, I didn't eat pork at all. Weaned myself off of beef, and then chicken, and then fish, and then grains, and then got just to vegetables. And it used to be that every change of the season, I would get this cold, and I would get extremely congested. And let's see, it lasted for about 2 weeks. As I got older, it got worse. It turned into my sinuses would get so congested that I couldn't even stand the light. And it didn't matter where I was or what I was doing. I had to go home, turn out the light, and put something on my face. And one day I went home and I was like, wonder if a hot water bottle would help. And I put it on my face and it helped. But it made me look at, okay, I'm tired of going through this. So let me change my diet. So I went through this drastic change. I stopped eating everything, and what happened was I stopped getting those every change of season colds. So then I started wondering, should we even be eating food? And as the thought came, I ran into this body of information about breatharians. You ever heard of breatharians? And when I did the research, breatharians are people who don't eat or drink anything, yet they live. And they actually exist there. And let me tell you what's interesting is there's a Hindustani guy over in what they call India. They locked him in a they found out that he doesn't eat anything. So what they did was they locked him in this room. And they put cameras on it. They turned the water off in the bathroom and the toilet and everything. And they observed him. And they did tests and everything. This is for real. This was like back in 2008, 2009. all right, that they did this. So, and of course, you didn't hear about it in the news here, right? No. You saw it online, right? Yeah. They locked him in this room, and they because they didn't believe that he didn't eat anything, and they locked him in there for like, I want to say 10 days. He didn't eat anything. But what they found was that his body would produce water in the form of urine, and then it would absorb it. So he didn't have anything going out, anything coming in. And they were absolutely amazed. Of course, everyone around the world was there investigating this Hindustani brother, except the United States of America. All right, so I started looking at a lot of diets, and as I'm changing my diet, I'm researching, I'm finding out that all of these medical ailments that people have, they don't need to have. And for a long time, I thought it was because of lack of information on the part of the doctors, but then I discovered that it's not that. So I've been doing this research for years, and like I said, I started I want to say in 2009, talking about diet, health, and immortality, because I realized if the body is designed to go on forever, and it really, if you discipline it, don't need food, you can be immortal. Why aren't people becoming immortal? So then I learned that the body is regenerative. It regenerates. It heals itself if you leave it alone. So then I started wondering, well, how come the body is not healing itself? And what I found out is that the body, do you know that your body tears itself down completely and you get a new body every 7 years? Every 7 years, you get a whole new body, new bones, new blood vessels, new arteries, everything is new. So every 7 years. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, so why is it that we're not improving? Our health is decreasing. And it's I started doing this fasting. I was a fasting junkie because I wanted to observe what would happen, and and my thinking was, if I fasted, because as I studied, I learned that fasting is absolutely amazing. Who knew that fasting is like your fountain of youth? Everybody's looking for the fountain of youth. It's in fasting, right? So I started fasting because and I was doing some serious fasting. I was doing like what they call a dry fast. I wouldn't recommend it, 21, unless you're really and truly ready to take responsibility for yourself. I was doing this dry fasting where I did not eat or drink anything. And I did it for a whole day. How many people have ever not eaten or drank anything for one whole day? How did you feel? Yes. Yes. Oh, 7 days? Oh, that's. Yes, you do. But for people who have never tried it, I would challenge you to just try it for a day. One day is easy. I mean, and try it on a weekend when you're not doing much. I happened to try it on the weekend when I wasn't doing anything. And I pretty much just laid in the bed, read, and chilled out for the whole day. Now, I have to say that for the first couple of hours, I wanted to do something. But after that, I was like, wow, this is really easy. So then I said, I wonder what it would be like to do it for 3 days. So I tried it for 3 days. By the third day, I couldn't sleep because I had so much energy. So then I said, well, I wonder how long I could go without eating or drinking anything. And it happened to be the summertime when I tried this, and I had all this energy. I felt like I was just going to jump out of my skin. So I went and bought 2 bikes. And at 5 o'clock, I would jump on that bike and ride and ride and ride until 8:30, nonstop. That is how much energy I had because I wasn't eating anything. What I also discovered is that because I wasn't eating anything and I didn't intend to exercise, but because I was doing this aggressive bike riding, my body was doing some serious cleansing. Serious cleansing. If you do a dry fast for 3 days and you do nothing, your body will cleanse. But when you do a dry fast for 3 days and you do some serious because riding a bike, a lot of people like to run. I don't like to run. Because, see, if you're 130 pounds, you got 130 pounds coming down on your hips, knees, and feet. Bike riding I like because bike riding is like you're in air. You're just moving in air. You're not stressing any part of your body except your butt, which is why you need a really good seat. I learned that the hard way. Did 10 miles, and boy, I said, I'm going to have to suffer it and get back home. But the next day I bought a really good seat. But after that, if you get a really good seat, there's no part of your body that is going to be stressed. You're not going to hurt your knees. You're not going to hurt your hips. You're not going to hurt your ankles. And I found that once you get into that groove of riding, you could ride, at least I felt that way, ride forever. I lost serious weight. And that's one of the reasons why I started wearing long skirts, because I lost so much weight. People were like, "Oh, girl, are you all right?" And I was like, I didn't care, because my thinking was all of the crap that I have eaten over the years is getting torn down and released. And I'm going to take in good stuff and build up a better body. And so that's what I did. In the process, I discovered that the skin is the largest organ of the body. And I also learned that we're, as divine beings that we are, we're really not supposed to be having these awful bowel movements. We're not. That's not supposed to be happening, because most of the waste is supposed to be coming out of your skin. Because that's what it's designed for. But we have to change our diet, right? So I was on this fast track to becoming a breatharian, and then I came up here to Harlem and discovered the juice bar. We don't have the juice bar up north. I was like, this is no meat? No dairy? Are you sure? And it was like, yes. And I tried it, and let me tell you, it's been an addiction trying to get off of that the juice bar food, because it's so good, and it's no meat and no dairy. And you can get all kind of pastries and cakes and goodies and stuff, but I also discovered some new stuff that I'm going to talk about tonight. That is, even if you're a vegetarian, you ever see some vegetarians, they don't eat no meat or dairy, but yet they're big? They look like, okay, you sure you're a vegetarian? You sure you ain't sliding some meat in there somewhere? And I discovered some things about the vegetarian, even vegan diet that I think is counterproductive. So, I've been trying to do these juice fast things, or I've been trying to do a water fast. And I did a water fast last year for like 23 days. My intent was to do it for 30 days. But by the 23rd day, all the way up to day number 23, it was a break. Now, I won't lie, the first 3 days, it was kind of rough because, you want, me personally, I'm like, I love green juices. Anything green. Green salad, I have to have my greens on a daily basis. So that was the hardest thing for me. But after the third day, once again, my energy was off the wall. I couldn't sleep. I was doing all kinds of stuff. I felt my body going through a serious cleanse. You ever watch people and they walk stiff? I was watching this brother last week. He was walking like the bottom of his feet was burning. Or you watch people and they walk like every joint in their body is hurting. That's because of the food that people are eating. And sometimes when you're on the go, when you're younger, you don't feel it, but it's going to catch up to you. Trust me, it's going to catch up to you. So we have to start thinking about making some changes now while we feel good. And, while there is good, healthy, wholesome food available, so that if you feel like, okay, I just got to have a green smoothie right now, that might not be what everybody craves, but I'm just saying that if you have that, I have to have a green smoothie right now, you can go to the juice bar and get a green smoothie because they got the fruits and the vegetables. Because if you look at what's going on around the world, these corporations are so seriously out of control. It is absolutely pathetic. Pathetic. And it's affecting everybody. Everyone, Moors and those other citizens, it's affecting everybody. These corporations, they don't care about nothing but profit. And it's not enough that they're already making so much profit off of the adults. Now they're going after the children. And it's right in our faces and we don't even see it. I was I'm always getting these ideas, and I will go on the line. Thank goodness you got these little internet phones. I'm always maxing out. What do you call it when you have? I'm always maxing it out. I only just recently discovered, wow, I can tap into other people's Wi-Fi and save my data. So I've been doing that, but about 2 weeks ago, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was on here Googling, looking for something, and I ran into something called ketogenics. You ever heard of it? Ketogenics? I was like, ketogenics? What is that? Now, what caught my attention was it was a video. I don't remember what I was looking for, but it was a video. And the video was being put up by this Asiatic sister. And, well, she appeared to be an Asiatic sister. I'm going to put it that way. And she was, like, really energetic, and she was, like, really lean, very lean. Doesn't look like there was an ounce of fat on her anywhere. And she's talking about this ketogenics, and she's been doing it for 5 years, and she's 47. And I was like, oh, all right, this is interesting. Let me check it out some more. So she's talking about this ketogenic diet, and she's saying you have to cut down your carbs to like 20 grams a day, 20 or less a day. And you have to increase protein and fat. Of course, when she talks about protein, she's talking about meat. And I'm like, okay, that's not our diet. So whose diet is that? What is that about? Because I know protein The fact that we as Asiatic people are consuming so much protein, we are having enormous medical challenges, all right? So I'm listening to this sister, and she's talking about consume protein and fat, and it will burn the fat that's in your body. And I was like, okay, well, the theory sounds right, but not that protein meat-eating portion. So I'm Googling ketogenics to find some more information, and I found the paleo diet. Ketogenics is the paleo diet. And I was like, oh, okay, well, see, that's why it's pushing me, because that's what their body's like, but it's not for us. But I said, well, let me check out the theory. Let me check it out some more. So I'm listening to it, and it says if you cut out the carbs, your body will burn the fat as opposed to sugar. And I said, okay, that makes sense. I get that. So I started Googling. I was listening to more, and she said something about they went and got this, I can't remember the name of the device, but this device is used by diabetics to check ketones in their urine. So when she says ketones, I was like, I know what that is. So I Googled ketones. And everything that pops up talks about diabetes. So I'm like, wait a minute. Let me research this some more, right? What it's saying is, now listen to this, because when I thought I had to take down some notes, because I was like, wait a minute. And I'm so hoping that I didn't lose my notes, because I need them. So I'm hoping I didn't put them in the wrong folder. But I'm listening to this, and so I said, well, let me jot this down so I'm clear. And in it, they say, hold on a minute. The theory is, I think I might have put it in my other folder, and I'm so glad I bought both of them. Hold on a minute. Let me just grab my other folder. This is what happens when you run out of, you're always writing research and you end up with multiple folders. Here it is. Yes. All right. Let me see if this blows your mind the way it blew mine. I had to start jotting down some notes. All right, so I'm listening to the sister, and here's the theory. I know some of it because I've studied the works of various different Earhart and Gerson and Pitkins. Anybody ever heard of the Pitkins diet? Yes. I studied the Pitkins diet. It's got some good points, but some problems. So I know a little bit about where they're going, but I needed more research. So I'm listening, and I started researching, and this whole ketogenics. Now, here's the theory. If you remove carbohydrate from your diet, everybody knows what carbohydrates are, right? You don't know what carbohydrates are. Most people consume enormous amounts of carbohydrates. Carbohydrates is cereal, bread, pasta, rice, potatoes, anything starchy. Also, they put these various different carbohydrates in anything that is processed. The biggest carbohydrate killer out there today is high fructose corn syrup. I mean, if you Google and research high fructose corn syrup, you ought not to eat nothing processed ever, ever again, because it's in everything. Everything, even baby formula. It's in everything. So if you are consuming a lot of carbohydrates and you do not exercise, instead of what the carbohydrates, what the body will do is it will convert the carbohydrates to sugar for energy, just in case you need to take off, right? But if you don't do nothing, it will convert the sugar to fat. I know this, because that's science of the body, all right? So now with this ketogenics program, and it's a good program, everybody really, I mean, with some alterations, all right? It says cut out the carbs, or, 20 grams or less, all right? Increase your fat and protein. And the body, instead of storing the sugar as fat, will burn it up. There will be no more sugar to make the fat, so it will start burning the fat that is in your body and in your blood, right? Makes absolutely good sense, right? Here's the thing. If you eliminate carbohydrates from your diet, because really we shouldn't be eating processed foods anyway, if you remove carbohydrates from your diet and you eat vegetables, the same thing will happen, right? Now, when your body is burning the fat as opposed to the sugar, one of the ways to know when that conversion takes place is your urine, because there will be ketones in the urine, which is an indicator that fat is being burned and not sugar. You following me? If you stop consuming carbohydrates, your body will stop using sugar/glucose, same thing, to produce energy and instead use fat. When fat is consumed instead of sugar/glucose, your urine and or blood will show high levels of ketones. Ketone measurement is used to determine if one has diabetes. However, high levels of ketone may not indicate diabetes. It may indicate no carbohydrate consumption. When I was absorbing this information, and I was like, wait a minute. So I started calling some people. Anybody in here diabetic? Anybody? Anybody? All right, so I can't ask anybody here. I called a few people that I know who are diabetic. The first person I asked, I said, what made you go to the doctor? Did you get sick? Was you feeling ill? What made you go to the doctor where they then diagnosed you as diabetic? One of the people that I spoke to said they went for a yearly checkup. I said, but were you sick? He said, no. So what made them check you for diabetes? And even as I said it, I realized, wait a minute. I didn't even give him a chance to answer. I said, wait a minute. Did they ask you for your family history? He said, yes. His mother's diabetic. I said, all right. So they naturally presume that you're going to be diabetic as well. You see where I'm going? So I asked him, I know this particular person, all right, my children's father. I know him. He's always doing something. He gets up with the rooster and he doesn't go to sleep. He's always doing something. So I know he's burning calories, your carbohydrates. If he's eating carbohydrates, he's burning them. And he's a big eater. But he eats a lot of meat. But even if he's eating a lot of carbohydrates, right? If he's working if he's burning, if he's working out, working up a sweat, that means that the carbohydrates are not going to turn to fat. And since he's always working, right, he's going to deplete the carbohydrate the carbohydrate sugar, and it's going to start working on the fat, right? Which means ketones are going to appear in his urine. And so what they did was they said, oh, ketones in the urine, mother's diabetic, we got to start looking at you for diabetes. I'm so glad that he decided to eliminate carbohydrates from his diet completely. But when I read this and I called him, I said, you need to be careful. I said, you might not be diabetic. Because you're always working. That means that you don't have time for sugar to be converted to fat, which means you're going to always have ketones in the urine, right? So I called my dad. My dad is diabetic, but it's difficult talking to him. Because he's 88 years old. He has this mindset, well, I got to have my meat and my rice. What else am I going to eat? I went up there and spent some time with him, and I made him a salad, and I put some, chicken on top, and he ate it, but I overheard him saying, he was saying to one of my aunts or my brothers or sisters, I've never had a meal with just salad and meat. So that lets me know, okay, he ain't too pleased about that. So I need to add a little bit of carbohydrate, even though he's a diabetic. But now I was looking at my dad now. My dad, I was trying to get out of him, when did they diagnose you as diabetic? Because my dad worked all the time. He's a carpenter. He worked sometimes up until 1 o'clock in the morning. All right? Lifting stuff. So was he storing sugar as fat? No. He would have been burning the sugar and then the fat that was trying to be stored, or the fat that was being, any fat that he had on him. My father is very lean. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh, wow, but can't tell nothing because, his wife was a nurse and they're all sucked into that medical industry. But what I realized is that he could have very well been misdiagnosed, because I know that when they sat down at the doctor's office, they asked him, is your mother diabetic? And he said yes. So now they put them together. They got to start him on an insulin program, right?
You were the one that told me about cayenne pepper. Do you use that cayenne pepper?
Oh, yeah. Yes, cayenne pepper is. Yes. 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 The lemon fast, my nephew, he passed, he called it fire water, and it just stuck. Yes. We call it the fire water because it's lemon, maple syrup, and cayenne pepper, and I like it spicy. And you drink that, and you can drink that for 10 days, and you will not be hungry. But and it will absolutely regulate your body. Amazing what can happen in 10 days on lemon, cayenne pepper, maple syrup, and just water. And it's what is it? It's like 10 ounces of water. Well, you know what? I'm not even going to get into that because, I always make it in a batch. And when I make it, I know other people make it differently. If you want to know, you know what? If you want to know the absolute recipe for it, it's on RVBey Publications on the Aboriginally Healthy page. But when I make it, I make it with like 1 orange equals 32 ounces, 1/4 maple syrup, and cayenne pepper to taste. I like it spicy. That's how I do it. I can add more lemon, but I don't ever add more maple syrup. I might add more cayenne pepper, but that's it. Yes, you can use. I've tried it with lime as well. Yes. So anyway, back to this diabetes, right? So now I'm looking at this, and I started a list of what foods have carbohydrates. Now we know about carbohydrates like cereal, crackers, cakes, flours. Did you know jams have carbohydrates? Jams. I didn't know that either. Preserves, bread products, potato products, dried fruit. You know dried fruit has a lot of carbohydrates. You know why? You know why? The sugar. They sprinkle it with sugar. You ever notice every dried fruit is sprinkled with sugar? So then in this something I was looking at, I was trying to find a list of all the carbohydrates, and they had vegetables. And I was like, well, what vegetables are carbohydrates? Corn, potato, peas. Did you know that corn is a grain? You know that corn is a grain? And you know what's crazy? Exactly, it is. But it's a grain, even though a lot of people think it's a vegetable. It's not. It's a grain. Well, a fruit. Fruit. Anything with a seed is a fruit. Yes. Then it talks about legumes. Y'all know what legumes is? I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Legumes. That's all kind of beans. Any kind of beans. Now, you know, beans would be high in carbohydrates, but they also promote it as being high in protein. And they say, well, if you're going to get away from meat, you need to substitute it with beans. But if you eat beans, that's going to raise your carbohydrates, which puts you back at too much fat. Right. And then there's whole grains and fruit. You know, what fruit do you think is a carbohydrate? A banana. Yep. Now, let me just explain why a banana is a carbohydrate. When I used to work at this pretty big insurance company, and they had their own cafeteria. And I'm trying to do my vegetarian thing. And so when I would be running too late, I might have forgotten to bring my lunch, because my breakfast and lunch was the same thing, right? And I would take myself to the cafeteria and call myself getting some fruit. Now, I don't understand these modern Europeans and what they think fruit is, but cantaloupe, melon, and what's the other one? Cantaloupe, melon, pineapple, they're supposed to be soft, not hard. Have you gone to some of these cafeterias, and it's like they didn't wait for the fruit to ripen, and they're cutting it up and putting it out and selling it, and you will just about break a tooth biting into that hard cantaloupe, melon, pineapple. Have you ever eaten a pineapple that was not ripe enough? I'm like, what kind of taste buds do these people have? Same thing they do with bananas. Bananas is a carbohydrate if it is not allowed to ripen well. Huh? Well, yeah, they do. And, you know, when I was in St. Thomas a couple of years ago, my sister bought me these little bananas. It was like this long, right? But it was like no banana I have ever tasted. And I have not tasted a banana like that ever since. It was so good, sometimes I am tempted to go back to St. Thomas just to get a couple more. What? It was little, but they have different ones. I don't know if they might have crossbred it with something else because it was so good. It was sweet, but it wasn't too sweet. It was the best little banana. I've never had a little banana until I went to St. Thomas. But it was huh? Oh, yeah? But, you know, up here they do things differently. Down in St. Thomas, stuff is ripe. It's soft. It's sweet. So if you're eating a banana and it's not fully ripe, you're eating a carbohydrate. Nuts. And I don't even know how yogurt got on the list. But it's a carbohydrate. Carbohydrates equal sugar. Sugar and glucose. Sugar turns to glucose, and glucose is glycogen. All right. Now, well, the Atkins diet. Let me think. The Atkins diet was low protein, high carbohydrate, and then they had another diet that was the opposite: high protein, low carbohydrate. I don't remember what they called that one, but today they call it the paleo diet.
What about papaya?
Yeah, papaya is a fruit because it's got the seeds in there. So these were some carbohydrates, and you know, the bread and the pasta and the cake and all of that. That's obvious. But I'm looking at this and I'm like, we are the means of moving these corporate profits. We are. And this is and the cycle is so vicious. It wasn't too long ago you didn't hear too much about diabetes. You remember? My father said that his mother had diabetes, but she never left Jamaica. And I can tell you that the people in the islands, they generally don't do medicine. They will do like an herb or something. Like my children's grandmother, she used to do, before she came up here, she used to eat a clove of garlic, and that took care of that. And then some people would take the cinnamon stick, boil it in water, and then they would drink the water like if they were eating too much sugar, like they might have had a piece of cake, and so they would drink a little bit of that cinnamon water and put the rest in the refrigerator. And that would regulate their blood sugar. So you can tell when your blood sugar is low or high if you really pay attention to your body. But what these modern Europeans and these corporations are doing is they're trying to move you away from being aware of your body. And they're so desensitizing the people through food that it's ridiculous, and it's all for corporate profit. Which is why, you know, last week we went through, you know, trying to chart the birth of a being. We didn't quite make it to death, but we got far enough for you to see that corporations are taking advantage of the people. And one of the areas that we identified was the hospital. I should have also, and I think, did we put the insurance companies on there? Well, when you look at the hospital and the insurance companies, oh my goodness. With diabetes, the issue is too much carbohydrates, which is not normal or a natural part of the Asiatic diet. When they create an addiction, which results in the body burning the excess carbs instead of fat, diabetes becomes fat results of diabetes because the fat in the blood is not being burned. Guess what a further result of excess carbohydrates is? You will, huh? No, it's much more insidious than that. A further result of too much carbohydrates, which means that you got too much sugar, which means that you got too much fat, Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's. You didn't hear about Alzheimer's like 20, 30, 40 years ago. You never heard of it. It just came out of the blue. It's like it just dropped out the sky. And, huh? It is absolutely created. All of these things is created. So I'm watching this, and it was a short video. What do you mean, Alzheimer's? Oh, it's pre-planned, honey. It is absolutely pre-planned. What? No. You never heard of it. All right. Well, no. It didn't exist before. No. Well, you're right to a degree, but we as a people were slow walked into these things that we are experiencing today. Every last one of us were slow walked into it. Every last one of us here now in this room listening, we are all of us addicted to food. Every last one of us. And if you try to make changes, you're going to have some strength, because they intentionally are putting things in the food to get you hooked like a drug addict. Oh, I'm going to talk about cancer. Don't you fret. The cancer, all of these medical, you know what? How many people know that we have a Facebook page? MHHS Eyes Wide Open has a Facebook page. Did you guys see that latest post that I put up there? I was hoping that we would have a projected, because one of them is like 6 minutes. The other one is a documentary. I put up 3. About 2 weeks ago, I put up one. I was surprised to see it on YouTube. It's a 2-disc series, but the first disc blows your mind, because the first disc chronicles, it's called Healing Cancer from Within. It's a 2-disc CD, but only the first one is on YouTube. I have both of them. In that CD, in that documentary, it shows you. Did you know that the so-called American Medical Association started out as a union? You know this? You know it's still a union, right? Still a union. It started, huh? Oh, all right. Yes, it's a union. It started as a union. It's still a union, just like the Bar Association is a union. But yet, these union corporations are running the people's lives. I just been studying it. I mean, I've been studying health for a long time. And another great medical guy, I don't even like to use that term, but his name was Linus Pauling. Linus Pauling discovered that years ago, well, actually, let me back it up. When the modern Europeans came over here on their slave ships, the Mayflower and the Santa Maria, by the way, happy Paleo Month. This is Black Happy Paleo Month. When they came over on the slave ships, the Mayflower and the Santa Maria, they damn near died because they didn't come over with, they didn't come over with it. When they came over, they had like meat and bread and stuff like this. And the people, because they didn't have any lemons or any fruit, they developed scurvy. How many people know what scurvy is? Yes. Lack of vitamin C. Now, how many people know what scurvy does? Actually, it doesn't do that. Nope. Scurvy, when you have scurvy, okay, one of the biggest things that vitamin C does is it protects the lining, the walls of your veins, arteries, and capillaries. And if you don't have enough vitamin C, you will have multiple heart problems. Multiple heart problems. For women, not only will you have multiple heart problems, but you have this bleeding that goes on every month. That's a scurvy. That's a sign of scurvy. Because what happens is when the uterus contracts, because the walls are so weak, their tears will develop. And that's what causes the bleeding. And so what happens is it takes about 6 days for the body to galvanize into action to repair it. And that's why over time you will see that the bleeding will stop. But then it'll start again, because every 28 or so days, your body is going to release an egg. That egg is going to sit in the uterus. And if it is not, and if it does not divide and create a being, it will be discharged. That is the whole menstrual. Well, that is the whole. What do you call it? Ovulation. That's everything. All right. Now, people will say, okay, well, that's why women have these bleeding episodes every month. No, because the egg is discharged before the bleeding begins. No, the egg is discharged before the bleeding begins. The bleeding comes after the egg is discharged because the uterine walls are contracting. Now, and really what's supposed to happen is you might have some spotting, but it's the only time that there's going to be a massive amount of blood in the uterus is if the egg divides, and that amount of blood creates a portion of the cushion. But if that's not happening, there's not supposed to be this great amount of blood that women are losing every month. That's scurvy. High blood pressure, scurvy. Now, let me tell you the dynamics of high blood pressure. High blood pressure, the way high blood pressure works, is just like a car. Really. If you have a car and you don't change the oil frequently, what's going to happen? What happens to the oil? It gets thick. Now, if it gets thick, what is it going to do to the engine? Right. And if you don't change it over time, and it stays when it gets and this thickness is being pulled through the engine, which is likened to the heart, what's going to happen? It's going to break down, right? So it's the same thing that happens with high blood pressure. Let me explain how high blood pressure works. Because we are suffering from scurvy, all right, when the lining of the arteries and the capillaries and the veins start to weaken and they develop tears, the body will plug those tears with plaque. That's why if you have too much plaque plugging these holes, it will close up some of those arteries, right? And then you'll go to the so-called doctor, and he'll say, oh, we're going to give you a cardiac cath and blast right through that plaque, right? Don't solve the problem, right? Just fix the symptom. Don't solve the problem. So the body will plug it with plaque, but you still got leakage, right? Because that's like putting a square in a circle. There's going to be some little bit of holes, right? So you're going to have some leakage, right? So what does the body do? What happens when what happens when you don't change the oil? The oil gets thick, right? The body thickens the blood. So you will have less leakage, right? So what happens, what we will do, because we lack so much knowledge, so much critical knowledge, we will go to these so-called doctors, and they will say, oh, we're going to put you on a blood thinner, right? Put you on a blood thinner. And then they'll say, take it easy. You don't want to stress yourself out, right? Because when you stress yourself out, it makes your blood sugar raise. It makes your blood pressure raise, right? Let me tell you what's making your blood pressure rise. The body is trying to protect the heart. It's thickening the blood. You're taking these drugs, these poisons from these quacks that's thinning the blood. That's stress on the body. That's where your stress is coming from. Your stress is not coming from you, getting scared because somebody came through the door too fast, or it's not. Your stress is not coming from you working 2 jobs. Your stress is look. Come on, look. When we were overtaken by the modern Europeans and enslaved, we was working in those fields. We didn't have no high blood pressure then. Nobody was talking about no stress then, right? But all of a sudden, many of us don't do a lot in a day, but we got stress. No. When you look at that bill, you might be having some heart palpitations because you don't know how you're going to pay it. But that's not creating the stress that's causing high blood pressure, right? That's scurvy. But they're not going to tell you about scurvy. You know why? Because everybody is using the people to generate income. Because if they were to tell you, look, I need you to just take some more lemons. Hey, how about go on the lemonade fast for 10 days? Your blood pressure will be gone, right? Lemon is not poison, and you can't make billions, trillions of dollars because the pharmaceutical industry is a multi-trillion-dollar industry. Guess how they got that way? No, they got that way because you got the so-called food industry, which is the FDA, in bed with the doctors who are in bed with the pharmaceutical corporations who are in bed with the hospitals. Do the people stand a chance when they're lacking knowledge? No. Well, you know what? They're a part of the food industry. They're part of the food industry. But look, I'm telling you, I was watching a couple of these documentaries, and it was just, I so understand why the prophet said, if I told you everything, you'd go back to sleep. I so get it. Because years ago, I want to say back in 95, I thought I was Miss Big and Bad. And I'm going to tell you, when you ask the universe for something, it will give it to you. So be careful what you ask for, because I also asked the universe to show me everything, and it's been showing me everything ever since. So I guess I am a stick and stay sister, because I've been seeing a lot of stuff and I'm still here. And the prophet said, if I told you everything, you go back to sleep. I ain't gone back to sleep yet, and every day I see more and more. Which is why I read the prophecies and the statements. Because if you're not reading the prophecies and the statements, you will be like, what's the point? What is the point of all of this? You know, they're bigger and they're badder, but you know what? They're really not. They're really not, because the prophet said it don't matter. But Lord, my mantra is the prophet's statement where he says, it don't matter how it looks. In the end, it's all going to end up in the hands of the Moors. That's my mantra, and that's why I read the prophecies and the statements, and I memorize a couple of them, because you're going to need them on this journey of revelation. You're going to need it on this journey of unveiling. When you declared your nationality and you said, I'm going to step into, you know, my culture or my family appellation, and I'm going to go back to the mindset of my foremothers and my forefathers, you're basically saying, I want all the information, and I'm going to take it, and I'm going to use it, and I'm not going to run away. Because this information is so enormous. If you ain't strong, you will run away. You will put your fez in the case and put it in the back closet and put your pen in a box and put it in the drawer, and you will go back to that mindset that you was found in. Because this takes strength and courage. This is not for the weak and faint of heart. It's not, because you're going to, so much is being unveiled. We're in the age of Aquarius, right? That means that the floodgates are open and stuff is just falling down. I mean, every day you turn on, well, actually not the TV, but every day you can go on the internet. You might have to sift through it because they have muddied up the internet so much that you got to sift through it. Back in 2008, it was a little clean. It was fairly new and it was clean. Today, they got all kind of misinformation out there telling you, diabetes can't be cured. Yes, it can. Yeah, a couple years ago, I actually found this group of people that put together a documentary. And I liked what they were saying so much that I bought the DVD before it actually became available. The name of the DVD, I don't know if it's on YouTube, it might be, but it was called Raw for 30 Days, Reversing Diabetes. You ever heard of it? Raw for 30 Days, Reversing Diabetes. I'm going to tell you, you're going to go and probably, if you get this DVD, you may go to some of your family that you love, and you may give them that DVD to watch. But I'm going to warn you. They might look at it and then do nothing. Because my father has diabetes. I didn't know that my sister took the DVD to my dad, and my dad and his wife sat down and watched it. My dad's wife was a nurse. She watched the DVD that had doctor after doctor after. What they did was they had 6 different types of people. One was an Asiatic sister. There was an Asiatic young son. There was an Asiatic, like, middle-aged sister. 3 sisters. One was, wait a minute, let me think. Was it 3? No, it was 2. 2 sisters. One was the older sister, Slim, and the other one was maybe a 30-ish-year-old sister, and she was on the big side. Then they had an Asiatic son. They had a so-called Native American Indian. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. And then they had a European, and I can't remember the other 2, but it was 6 people. and they had them come in. They put them on raw food for 30 days. And after 7 days, some of them was able to no longer take insulin. All right? Out of 6, 1 quit. Can you guess who quit? The so-called Native American Indian. He was a huge dude, too. He quit, called up his son, said, come get me. I can't take this. Son got out the truck and was just as big as the dad. All right? But he didn't stay. So it was 5 that completed this. He was a European. That's why I said so-called. He was a European. He's so obviously European. But he did not stay for that. He quit. But everybody else stayed. They got off. Some of them got off their insulin. Some of them, and they were different types. Like they got this type 2 and type 1 diabetes. And so they were able to get off of that. So this raw for 30 days worked. But guess what? It works for any medical challenge because all of the stuff that is on the market, you could heal yourself by going raw. It's preferred that you go back to raw foods using organic food. But even if you can't get organic food, it is a hell of a lot better than any processed food you could buy. Because every processed food on the market is full of sugar and carbohydrates. And the sugar comes in the form of high fructose corn syrup. I was watching a documentary today. I was so amazed at some of the things that were said. How many people got Netflix or access to Netflix? Check out this documentary called Fed Up. It was so sad because it showed the corporations, they're going after the children because they know they got the adults hooked. And they showed you it in this documentary called Fed Up, obesity, I think. But when you see it, it's got these, is it in there? A red and a blue one, and it says Fed Up. FU, is it FU? Yeah, FU, all right. And when you watch it, what it's showing you is that these people they're not even, I can't even call them animals because animals take care of their young. These people are feeding off of the young now. They have, did you know, I mean, I haven't been to the elementary schools or the schools lately, but all the school lunch is all sugar, carbohydrates. In some schools, they got McDonald's, Pizza Hut, and what was the other one? Another one. I can't remember. But I remember seeing the McDonald's and Pizza Hut logo. Now, in this documentary, it shows you how the people was complaining, right? Now, I'm going to tell you, the problem with people is that they keep going to the so-called politicians who have agreements with these various corporations, and they showed you this in this documentary. I know this, but when you have it laid out, it's like hard to say, you're just, you're paranoid. Because when I talk about stuff like this, some people will be like, oh, and you're just paranoid. You just don't like white people. That's what they say. But when you watch a documentary like Fed Up, and they laid it out, and they're showing you how they're attacking. They said that statistics now show, check this out, that a 2-month-old baby can recognize a brand like Coca-Cola. I said, look at this. Fluoride. Fluoride. But they in this documentary, how many people remember the Ritalin? Do you know that Ritalin causes brain damage that is not reversible? And in this I didn't know this stuff. That's why I'm like, you've got to watch this documentary called Fed Up. In this documentary, it said that if you want to join the military, they go into your records. If there is any reference whatsoever to you being given Ritalin, you will not be in the military because the Ritalin never leaves your system. It causes permanent, irreversible brain damage, and they know that when you become an adult, because you took that Ritalin as a child, when you become an adult male, you can flip out and go crazy. So they will not enlist you in the military at all. They know this, and there are children out there today who they are compelling to take this Ritalin. Oh, you don't know what Ritalin is? Ritalin is given to children. No, Ritalin is given to children because, no, it's a pill. It's given to children because the children, they naturally are curious and they want to learn. And especially boys. Boys are curious to no end. They will be curious about things that you would not have thought about. Girls are curious as well, but boys is like on a whole different level when it comes to curiosity. And so they decided, oh, well, you know, these curious children who don't want to conform to the standard, okay, because children don't have a standard. All children are different. All children want to go out and explore the world. That's why they came here, but they don't want that. So they identify the child as being overactive. And so they give the child Ritalin to calm the child down. And Cat Williams talked about it in one of his stand-up comedy shows. He said his son was so energetic and you know, from like 5:30 in the morning, it doesn't matter if he went to bed at 3 a.m., he was up at 5:30 just running here and there, trying to discover everything. And they suggested he give him Ritalin. And he said he gave him Ritalin one time, and he said his son just sat and just was spaced out, and he didn't like it. So never gave it to him again. But they know that if you give the child Ritalin, and now check it out, because look, I downloaded it to my phone. Now that I know how to play movies on my phone, I downloaded it to my phone, 2 documentaries, and I was listening to them on my way up here. I'm going to be listening to Fed Up on my way back. All right, but because I'm one of those people, I listen to it, I watch it over and over and over again, because you hear things when you hear things when you listen to it over and over again that you didn't hear before. And sometimes, for me at least, when I'm listening, sometimes even when I'm working, I'll have it playing and I'm listening, and as I'm listening, you know, I'll get some type of a epiphany, and I'll connect the dots, and I'll be like, oh, that's what that meant, you know. I'm just absent-mindedly listening, right? But that has happened to me. So I'm listening to this thing, and I'm seeing how they're bringing McDonald's and Pizza Hut and all of these places into the school because they have figured out that they can capture another market at an earlier age. Now, of course, all of these corporations, they support each other. The food industry so-called food industry supports the doctors. Of course, the doctors support the hospitals. The doctors and the hospitals support the pharmaceutical corporations. The doctor, hospital, pharmaceutical corporations support the insurance corporations. All of it is a monopoly against the people. It's all a monopoly. No, it's called murder. That's what it is. Because I'm hold on. I'm watching this and I'm like, wait a minute now. The Obama so-called health care plan is trying to get people to participate in this. And you know, I mean, I just had so many epiphanies as I was watching these documentaries. Another one that I had, how many people remember a couple of years ago, the war on drugs? The war on drugs. Now, if you have been studying even a little bit, you will realize that whenever they say something, what they really intend is the reverse of what they say. So if they're saying the war on drugs, they're really intending to do what? Promote drugs. Now, before the war on drugs, you hardly ever saw a commercial on the TV about drugs, poison, really. Now, since the war on drugs, every other commercial is a drug/poison commercial. And to slow walk the people even further into this particular travesty, when I was a little girl, they called it the drug store. Today, they call it the pharmacy. Because they're slow walking the people into this self-murdering. It's self-murdering, but it's self-murdering because of gross lack of information. I was watching one of these documentaries, and it was talking about this 12-year-old that was diagnosed with some kind of cancer, 12 years old. She must have had at least 12 different operations for cancer. All the while, they knew that all of their treatment for cancer does not work. So why are they cutting up this little girl? Exactly. But you see that they don't even care about the people. The people is what generates their income. That is absolutely unconstitutional. That's why the Constitution was written. No. No. I'm there, Connecticut. No. Evicted? Why? Oh, but they've been doing that. Well, yeah, I knew that. Well, what area? No, because see, in like the Hartford area, they're doing this major revamping, and they're like in a certain radius, because they're trying to clear all the Asiatic people out and move in the modern Europeans. So they hiked up the taxes for all the so-called homeowners in that area. They've been literally attacking the people in one way or another who live in any of those so-called public housing or... I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said. The woman goes to the profession, Professor John Jay. Right there in New York. So many people now are being paid. People in tent. Well, these people have
profession or they're doing trade and you think they all like the whole life.
Well, it's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stuff going on. Some of it not so bad, some of it really, really bad. But you know what? The prophet said that the people were going to be forced to make change. And that's where we are right now. But, brother, you had a question? You had something to say back there? Well, actually, you know what? I'm watching this because when you mentioned the FDA, people really think the Federal Drug Administration, that's not government. That's a corporation. How do you know they're a corporation? No. Well, yes, but we haven't found the charter yet. But before you find the charter, one sure way to know that they're a corporation is that they get kickback from a lot of these so-called food corporations that they're supposed to be monitoring. And it shows you that in this setup. I mean, look, there was Michelle. I know her intentions were very good and honorable. She went on this campaign. Y'all remember she went on this campaign and she was talking about we need healthy foods in the schools? And she was going real strong, right? You don't hardly hear nothing about it now, do you? You know why? Because I think that they realized that they was going up against a huge force. Because Michelle said something, and they pointed out in that documentary Fed Up. She said something about she's going to be pushing and promoting healthy food. And all of the big corporations like Coca-Cola, McDonald's, and everything, they all set up. They was like, oh, how can we diffuse this situation? You know what they did? Brilliant. They joined her. She formed a committee, and guess who is on the committee? All the big food corporations that's pushing poison. Well, she can agitate, but see, what I think as I was watching it, what I saw was they didn't realize that they were getting bamboozled. They did the same, and you know what? An analogy that they showed you was the Philip Morris Company. Y'all remember the Philip Morris Company? Who knew that the Philip Morris would, when they saw the handwriting on the wall, would diversify into other areas besides tobacco? But here's the thing: when they started the whole awareness of the dangers of tobacco, Philip Morris, another brilliant move, instead of him fighting them, he joined them. He started, and they would give like massive amounts of money for lung cancer research. When one of the major contributing factors is smoking, right? That's like, you know, I can't fight my enemy, so I might as well join them. Because, see, when you join your enemy, you're on the inside, and you can better, you know, block them because you got inside information. That's what they did with this whole better foods for the children.
they were given a teacher at the elementary and high school. They McDonald's would give the school money, and the teachers donate like 4 hours of their time working at the McDonald's. That would encourage students of their.
Yes, yes, yep. Well, one of the things that they showed you was, because you know one of them, the Bush boy, he was part of the problem, him and his father, but he was in office when they tried to make a change to the foods that the children were receiving, and what they did was his administration cut a big chunk of finance out of the food that the children in the schools were getting. Did I say that right? All right. So whatever finance was allocated so that the children can have free lunch, that was severely cut. Strategy. All of this is strategy, and the one that suffers is the people. So now, right. So now, if you cut the funding that's going to provide the children with free lunch, who do you think is going to step in as the savior? McDonald's, Taco Bell, Pizza Hut. So now, because their funding got cut, they can't afford to buy the food. The kitchen is no longer used to cook food. This is all in the documentary. The kitchen is no longer used to cook food. Ain't no cooking going on in the kitchen. They get huge shipments of already cooked and processed foods from places like McDonald's, Pizza Hut. What was the other one you said? Taco Bell, Coca-Cola, Burger King, some Oreo cookies and all of this stuff. And they have that, and they're giving that to the children. And they have only enough resources to cook one nutritious meal. But all of the rest of the food is the crap from McDonald's, Burger King, Taco Bell, Coca-Cola, and then they expect the child to go and choose the healthy food. Guess what? Guess which one of the foods is thrown in the trash on a daily basis? The cooked, healthy food, not the processed food. And I'm watching this, and I'm looking at this now, because what this is doing is this is creating a new crop of revenue generators for the whole medical fiasco industry, because you got children as young as 12 and 16 with high blood pressure, diabetes, heart problems, poor circulation, deficit problems. Excuse me? Well, that's been hypothesized, but I can tell you this. Well, I know for a fact, because it was on the internet. They didn't talk about it in the so-called media, in the newspapers, but my daughter, she was a Pepsi fanatic until it came out that Pepsi is taking some sort of the aborted fetus and using it in the Pepsi Coke, in the Pepsi soda. No, and people were trying to sue them, and the so-called FDA said that, well, you know, because the baby is already dead, it's not that they're killing the baby for whatever they're using. Say that again? Yeah. Yes.
Where
and Drug Administration is just another corporation. You know, I mean, I cannot say it enough. I mean, how many people read the letter to the people of Great Britain from 1774? How many people read that letter? It's on the RVBey Publications website. It was the precursor letter leading up to the Articles of Association. When you read that letter, in that letter, and we talked about this last week, every corporation, because you got to know that New York is a corporation. Brooklyn is a corporation. The Bronx is a corporation. Manhattan is a corporation. What's the other one? Staten Island is a corporation. Nassau is a corporation. I mean, you know, it for the New York Union State, they have over 1,000 counties, cities, towns, township, borough, corporations registered. Over 1,000. Now, this is what happened in 1774. It was like the people couldn't turn around in the same spot without being fined a fee for something. Because it was like the Monopoly board. You couldn't move and go nowhere without going to jail. How many people play Monopoly? How many people never play Monopoly? Have you ever seen the Monopoly board? You understand the concept, right? The Monopoly game is exactly what is going on today. On the Monopoly, they had Public Works, right? The water company, Public Works. If you brought up Public Works, anybody who needed the whatever came out of Public Works had to pay you. Isn't that what's going on now? I mean, if you wanted to go to a hotel, you had to pay. They had little hotels, big hotels, railroads, right? Everything. If you didn't have the finance, you couldn't even stand in the same spot, because even standing in the same spot would generate a demand for income. That's what's going on right now. That's what was talked about in the letter to the people of Great Britain in 1774. When you watch things like Fed Up, Food Matters, Food Inc., what is it? There was another one that I read, Fat, Sick and Tired, and something like that. Say what? I never saw that one. Oh, you know what? I'm going to watch that when I get home. I saw that, but I was looking more for people. That was talking about the cows. But they. Yes, but they allude to that in Food Inc. as well. But Cowspiracy is just an entire expose on it. But when you watch these documentaries, Knife Over Fork, there's another one that talks about. Oh, wait a minute, I can tell you, because I put what is it? Healing Cancer from Within was another one. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. What was that other one? Because I put it up on. Oh, and I'm not going to be able to get in because I'm on my phone. There was another one called Cancer. What was it? Cancer dash the curse. The something about the curse. What was it? What was it called? Something curse. And that one is on the MHHS Eyes Wide Open Facebook page. I found it on YouTube and I linked it in there. But that one shows you how from far back as 1913, y'all hear me? 1913, they had a cure for cancer, and the so-called American Medical Association blocked it from being given to the people. Today, there's only 2 clinics that exist that you can go to in the Americas where you can get some relief from cancer, and both of them are in Mexico because the so-called American Medical Association has made it illegal to talk to the people about anything except chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery for cancer. Say what? Wait a minute, what? I don't know. That sounds familiar, but the enormity. There's another doctor recently. He was out of Texas. I don't know what his status is today. Brzezinski, I think is his name. Brzezinski. He had a theory where he said that there are certain cells in the body that, for whatever reason, I'm saying it's probably due to whatever people are consuming, and it's intentional, those receptors in the body shut off. And it is those receptors within the body that produce the necessary ingredients to not only to deter cancer in the body. And so he came up with this remedy, and when he administers the remedy, it turned the receptors on that repel cancer and turned the receptors off that promoted the cancer growth.
Control mind, the brain is cancer or type of. So many different stories in there. The doctor said, well, just put him to this farm because we don't have no more medicine. And one of the stories I remember, they told us that he had one leg this, one business, one of everything. They put her in this apartment, take care of herself. They don't help her. She had to get a job with all her illnesses and everything. Birthed these kids and became a babysitter. I think he was blind too. But after all that, she stopped worrying about herself and had to survive. They had learned that the mind really.
Well, absolutely. The mind is what is carrying everything. But you have to understand that if you're eating or consuming certain, it's going to change the vibration of your body, and that is what is causing these different malfunctions of the body. Is who's that? Blue pill or red pill? Blue. Well, I know that Dr. Sebi he's on record as curing cancer for a long time. But I'll tell you what's really interesting about Dr. Sebi. Dr. Sebi is the only one that can make this claim because he is a Moor. Might not be declared, I don't know, but yes, he did. Absolutely. 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 But the point that I'm making is he's the only one of Asiatic descent that can go into any venue. And this is what he did. And he said, this is the remedy that has historically and ancestrally healed our people. Basically, how dare you say we can't use it? Basically, that was his whole defense, and a very good one at that, because he's 1,001+% right. But see, most of our people, they don't get it. There's so many different herbs out there that historically and ancestrally It is what we use. And even if it wasn't, how dare any corporation tell you what you can and cannot do? That is absolutely unconstitutional. Well, that's the problem. That is the problem. Because we need the people to wake up and start learning the law and stop falling for anything and everything that they say. Like right now, they got people who they're going and they're getting this medical insurance because they don't want to get hit with a tax. Because they said if you don't have medical insurance, you're going to have to pay more taxes. Now, here's the travesty. The Internal Revenue Service is a private corporation that, and as we said last night, it's on record that United States of America government said they are not an agency of the federal, they're not a federal agency. So if they're not a federal agency, what the hell are they doing compelling the people to do anything? No. And so let me go back to this whole medical health care thing. When Obama put that health care bill on the table, I paid attention even when I wasn't trying to pay attention, all right? He said that the corporation, did you hear what I said? The corporations are the ones that are obligated to provide insurance for their employees. All right? So now, what did they do? How is it that that's being transferred to the people? You want to know why? Because the vast majority of people are filing the 1040 Internal Revenue Service corporate return form like they are a corporation, which means that you are responsible for providing your damn self with the insurance, and if you don't, the Internal Revenue Service is going to fine you. How about that for ridiculousness? How about that? And see, how do you know what I'm saying is true? You just needed to pay attention. That's why these corporations were all up in arms talking about, oh, Obama needs to be this and needs to be that because he's making us provide this insurance and it's going to wipe out our profits and this and that and the other. But they didn't have to worry because the vast majority of people are going to file those 1040s. And if you tell them that, look, you are not obligated, I know because I had this in my own family, you are not obligated to file those tax returns. And the first thing they will say is, what you talking about? I want my refund at the end of the year. And you can't even get it into their heads. Then I'm saying, look, you can have your refund with every paycheck. How about that? They couldn't understand it because to them, they was looking at it like putting money in a savings account. And at the end of the year, they were going to be able to get this lump sum because they didn't have the discipline to do that themselves. But that's a crapshoot because the Internal Revenue Service on the way to the end of the year could impose some new way of snatching a good portion of your return, right? So then all of this waiting for this lump sum return at the end of the year goes out the window. No, you have yourself down because you filed that 1040, which identifies you as a corporation. No. See, the Internal Revenue Service says that it is all voluntary.
Income tax is voluntary.
It's all voluntary. All right? All of it is, everything is voluntary. None, well, That's the problem. See, most people are waiting for somebody to tell them, and they bank on that. They bank on us not reading. They bank on us not even watching these documentaries that's telling you to your face, sucker. No, because I read some case law last night on the show, and it said wages is not income, right? Exactly, because that's your energy. They're taxing your energy. No, they're not. No, they're not. No, they're not. Tell me how that's being done. See? No. That's presumption. That's presumption based on lack of information. But see, but you're right, and that's the trickery. But here's the thing. Where do the majority of the people go to be informed? At a young age, where do they go to be informed? All right. So tell me, all this stuff, did y'all learn it in the school? I didn't learn a lot of this stuff in the school. They have some clues that I can tie together with what I know now, like indentured servants. I know they were talking about the modern Europeans, like the what they call it, the Paleo History Month that the Asiatic people is celebrating this month. That's their shit. That ain't ours. That's their celebration. I was watching another documentary, Soul Food something another, and it was this Asiatic brother who went on this journey to determine why is it that soul food is called soul food. And you know what? I gotta give it up to Dick Gregory. I love what he said. He said that ain't no soul food. That's slave food, right? But here's the thing. Who are the original slaves? The modern Europeans, because see, slave means Slavic, and we was never that. All right? So the fact that we later became enslaved, and this was something else I was talking about. We later became enslaved, and they would give us the scraps. Why? Because that's what we gave them. Everything that they are doing to us, they learned from us because we did it to them. These are not brilliant people. How would they know to put you in the barn? You know, like, because on this documentary, they talked about how when the so-called civil rights people was, got kidnapped down in, like, Alabama or something, they would put them in the barn. And this Asiatic sister, she would make food and bring it to them because they didn't bring them nothing to eat or drink, right? And they thought they would put us in the barn because, they thought we was animals. And I was like, wow, they don't even know their history. The reason that they put you in the barn is because that's where we used to put them. Because that's where animals live. So that when the tables turned, they did it back to us. That's what how would they have learned that? No, that's not the point. And I'm not talking about that. The reason that the people are calling this slave food soul food is because when the tables were turned and they was giving us the scraps, we then took those scraps and made it palatable. All right? But now here's the travesty of the whole slave soul food. Today, We got grocery stores where we can go and get fresh fruits and vegetables, and we still eating the slaves' food. Talk about a mental conditioning. And then we promote it. Oh, yeah, that's some soul food. That's slave food. That's not even the food that our bodies really can tolerate. Really, think about it. Pig intestines, I'm not knocking anybody for having ever eaten it, but I'm just trying to point out what species would eat pig intestines. Lions, tigers, right? But that's not us. But that's what was thrown to us after we were enslaved. And we did what we could with it until it was supposed to be until we could do better. But we still eating food like we're enslaved. And we are, but we have the ability to make a choice where what we consume is concerned, which brings us back to our health. It's amazing that more people have not figured this out, but it's coming to a head. I believe that the reason that they're pushing this whole medical health care is because more and more people are fed up. They're sick and tired of being told, oh, well, this will give you a 40% quality of life. How about 100? I want my 100 back. How about that? I worked in the hospital, and the the first area that I worked in was a dialysis unit. I mean, it was a dialysis unit. So I can tell you firsthand, if you are a diabetic, if you go down that diabetic road without doing any research, this is what you have to look forward to. You're going to eventually go blind because the insulin produces that. It causes havoc in the body. It's not diabetes that kills you. It's the insulin. All right? You're going to have so many heart problems. You're going to have problems with your extremities. At some point, you might have to have your legs amputated because the major problem with diabetes is circulation. The blood stops going down to the toes, right? And your kidneys are going to fail you. You're going to end up having to go to dialysis 3 times a week. I have never heard of anybody going to dialysis less than 3 times a week. Never. And I worked in a dialysis unit, all right? Now, the problem with dialysis is if you go to dialysis on Monday, you're going to need all of Tuesday to recoup from Monday. So you recuperated right on time to go back on Wednesday, and then you're going to need all of Thursday to recoup from Wednesday. And that's the cycle for the rest of your life. And they say, well, that's the 30 to 40% quality of life. That's not good. Because you're going to be in the dialysis, because when you go for dialysis, they hook you into a machine. They put talk about, this is some kind of modern day torture. They put a shunt in your vein, and it's a metal tube. It might be plastic these days, who knows. It's a metal tube, it's about this long, and it's about as thick as a finger. And they put it in a vein. Because when you go in for dialysis, they are going to hook that machine into that shunt, and it's going to take all of the blood out of your body, clean it, and recycle it right back in. After that, you're wiped out. That's what you have to look forward to. When you could make some changes now, And you know what? I have to say this, and then we're going to wrap it up. We have to stop taking things that these people tell us and running with it. We've got to hear it. The internet is your friend, really. Anything you want to know, you can find it on the internet. There are ancient books on the internet that you can even go into and get additional information. There's no reason why we lack information on some of the things that they are telling us these days when there is the internet. We have to stop taking what they are saying and running with it. If not for ourselves, for the children, because they're coming after the children now. They're in the schools. They're creating a new generation or a new crop of revenue generators, and it's our children. And if we don't stop asking other people to make these animals, these monsters stop, they're never going to stop. It is our obligation and our responsibility to, if necessary, sue them. Don't participate in their murder industry. Because if they can take a 12, a 5, a 2, or even a 2-month-old baby and torture it and feel no remorse, we have got to wake up and look for other avenues. We need to go back to the mindset of our foremothers and forefathers and start healing ourselves through food, whole food, and natural medicine, and give up that poison, because you can never, ever, ever heal yourself if you're taking poison. Islam? All right. So who do we have that can do our closeout, and then we are out of here. I'm gonna have to stand next to you because I ain't got my mic.
That works.
Well, that works for in here, but over the ear, I'm gonna have to take my little earpiece out. Yes. Well, that's not going to happen. It's already been prophesied. Yes. Islam.
Islam. 5 on the left, 2 on the right, repeat after me. Allah, Father of the universe.
Allah, Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth. Peace. Freedom. Justice.
And justice.
Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My God. And my salvation. By night. By day.
And by day.
Through his holy prophet.
Through Ali.
Also known as Sheikh
Abdul Ali.
Amen. Peace and love.
All right.